So what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Robert. If this is your first time tuning in. So today, what I have with me today is the Penn Wrath, the first generation. I'm making this video in 2024. So in 2024, the Penn Wrath 2 has already come out. I'll leave this one along with the new generation down below in the description for anyone who is interested in checking out more pictures, reading the specs, just kind of looking at overall the build quality or reading anything you want on these rods. So it is humid, it's hot here in South Texas. We got a bunch of rain, so the humidity is up there. So you can hear me sniffling. It's harder to breathe all that humidity. But anyways, I'm gonna give you guys a quick little glance at the rod itself. This is a two-piece heavy to moderate fast action rod. I'll give you kind of a close-up of the rod itself as well. I'm going to be using this as my thumbnail, so I'm trying to get a good angle here. But yeah, this is the rod here. So this one is a 10-foot rod. The reel itself is an 8,000. Now, obviously, something that strikes you right off the bat is going to be the coloration. This one is blue. The first generation came in blue. Now the price point, people always ask me about the price point on these rods. This one was pretty cheap compared to some of the newer models that they're putting out and at where they're coming in at price point levels. This one was around $60 to $70, again, depending on the size of the rod and the size of the reel that you do purchase. Now, when you see these in the stores, they kind of stand out because they're blue. You know, a blue rod in this particular color. And then once you get closer, you see that it's a Penn. Penn is a well-known, well-established brand, so it obviously piques people's interest when they see that. Now this one reminds me more or less of a Penn Pursuit. That's the closest thing I can, I guess, relate it to is a Penn Pursuit. Penn Pursuit, for us, has performed well. We've had these things for 8 years, 10 years. They've always done well. This is the closest thing that I would say is like a more of a Penn Pursuit. Now we'll kind of do the wiggly jiggly test here that I call, and just to kind of see how the rod reacts and does. So as you can see, it's, you know, pretty flexible. This rod does have some good flexibility. Now when I reviewed some of the Penn Fierces and some of the bigger, bulkier, they feel bigger, bulkier, the rods, they don't give you as much of a catapulting action, but this one, however, does. It has a lot of flexibility, so that's why it gives you a little bit more flexibility so you can get a good catapulting action. Now the price point is probably justified because they have a little bit more plasticky, cheaper type of metals on the reel itself, but we haven't had any issues with this one. This one has been in the arsenal for over a year and no issues, so I can't say that the way it's built is an issue, right? It's just it affects the price point because it doesn't have as much metal. But it seems to be, again, a decent plastic if it is like a plastic. It feels like a plastic metal mix. It doesn't feel like some of the higher end pans that we have out there. Now I'll kind of read off some of the specs for how much line you can put on these rods. So for mono, it's going to be 20 pounds, 340 yards, 25 pounds, 310 yards, 30 pounds, 230 yards. For braid, it's going to be 50 pounds, 475 yards, 65 pounds, 390 yards, 80 pounds, 345 yards. Now, a lot of you are going to ask me on the gear ratio and the bearings. It's a 5-3-1 gear ratio. The bearing is a 2+1 bearing system. Again, this is an 8,000 in a 10-foot rod. Now to read some of the specs off of the rod itself. It's a Penn Wrath, 10-foot heavy to moderate fast action, 20 to 40 pound mono, 30 to 65 pound braid, and 2 to 6 ounce lure is what the rating is for the rod itself. Now, something that Penn has done for pretty much all their reels for as long as we've had them, starting from the Penn Pursuits all the way up to where we are in 2024, 8-10 years later, is they have a unique way of setting up the eyes. Let me get one of these bigger eyes so I can show you. You can see it better on one of these. But these eyes, it comes from like a solid piece. I don't know how to explain it. Some of the eyes from like other types of reels, other brands of reels, they have like a double layer. This one has a single layer, so it doesn't have these little double layers in here. So what we found is sometimes with those double layers, sometimes, I don't know why or how, maybe the sand, rocks, something affects those little double layers, and they start to, like, at the edges, start to fray a little bit on the eyes itself, and that ends up ripping the lines. It ends up fraying the lines, and then sometimes when you're throwing it out there with a good size weight, it'll bust. Or sometimes when you get a good fish, it has enough pull on there and it'll bust the line as well. But with the Penns, we haven't had these issues because it's a solid piece. It doesn't have, you know, everywhere that the line rubs is real smooth. It's a solid piece. There is no area for the eye to start catching or getting frayed and then fraying your line. So that's one thing that we really do like about the Penns is the eyes. We've had to replace some eyes off of other cheaper rods that we do have until we just started going full on just buying Penns because they just do better. What else? So again, traditional handles. These are the Penn handles we have on most of our rods. Some of the newer ones have the circular one, but I like these, like the egg-shaped type handle. I can get a good hold on this thing. What else? We talked a little bit about the build construction. Again, it's a little bit more plasticky, which again justifies the price point at where it's coming in at. Some of the more like the Penn Fierces and some of the newer ones that are in the, you know, above $100 range have a little bit more metal. But again, price is justified. You're paying for a little bit more of a, I guess, durable material. Yeah, this one again has a little bit of plasticky stuff on there, but it hasn't been a problem. Some of the Penn Pursuits, it feels a little bit more like a Penn Pursuit, but again, no issues on this one. Now the bail system, I think this is where you can actually feel like the plasticiness of it, is when you click it over. It just sounds a little bit more plasticky. That's the only thing I could say that makes it sound or feel plasticky. Now I'm gonna have to reel this in later, but now what people always want to know is how does it handle fish? It handles fish very well. Like I said, you can actually feel the fish fighting with this rod particularly. With some of the other rods that I have that are like more like a Penn Fierce, where the rod's a little bit more stiff, it says the same thing. It says, you know, it'll say, you know, heavy, moderate, fast action, but it feels different. I don't know how to explain it. It just feels different. With this one, you can still feel the power of the fish. Again, if it's a decent sized fish, if you have like a little half a pound catfish, you're probably not going to feel it on this thing. But once you start getting into like 3, 4, 2-pound fish, you'll probably get a good feel on the fish itself. So that's something that I find that's important for me when I'm picking up rods, is how does the rod feel right now? Because usually if it's a little bit softer rod, has more flexibility, and has a little bit more catapulting action, I find that I'm able to feel the fish fighting more than with a stiffer rod, and that's because I enjoy that. That's what I want. I want to feel the fish. I want to feel that fight, you know. So if you like that flexibility, if you like the more catapulting action, then this is a similar rod to what's on the market with the Penn Wrath already. But if you want a little bit more of a cheaper price point on the rod, this is going to be a good buy as well. Again, I'll give you guys a quick little exit of the reel itself. Again, I got to get a good view of it because this is going to be my thumbnail here. Well, alrighty guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Until next time, be careful, be good, take care, and God bless. Everything will be linked down below in the description, so check it out.